Chapter 11:16, Beasts Fighting Beasts. As dusk came, tens of chefs of the Golden Coast Club sweated profusely while cooking a variety of dishes, whereas the waiters constantly moved through the corridors in a hurry to deliver the dishes, filling every corner of the clubhouse with the fragrant smell of food. The dinner feast was the final procedure of the nether swap, meeting as hundreds of senior members stationed in China would leave this place. Following the announcement of the important news by Wang Xing, the position transfer for supervisors had also been announced for the next 3 years, so they needed to go back and prepare for the handover. Time passed by, and plates of dishes and wines were constantly consumed to their heart's content. After feeling full, some began conversing and others were ready to leave together, though some also prepared to stay for the night and leave early in the morning. In the vicinity near the Golden Coast Club, 10 black cars silently parked in a remote spot. No lights, people, nor sound could be seen or heard. Duanmu Lin's eyes were glittering in the dark, looking at the tranquil and calm-looking Tang Xiu at his side. He couldn't help but ask, "I think we came too early, Tang Xiu. The best time to get them should be at 2 or 3 a.m. Hey, would you please calm yourself, Senior Duanmu?" Tang Xiu slightly shook his head and replied smilingly, "I told you I already have it arranged, didn't I? It's 8:05 p.m. now, and I guarantee you will start the motion in half an hour at most." Duanmu Lin could only shake his head with a bitter smile. "You keep holding everything until the story reaches the climax, brat. You're really making me feel like hundreds of claws scratching my heart, you know that? That leaves me in a foul mood." "Well, at least I can make sure you can slay those people happily like chopping a melon later, Senior Duanmu," said Tang Xiu smilingly. Duanmu Lin couldn't help but chuckle after hearing his remark. "Just when the hell is you seeing those dark-wind people like some soft shrimp, kid? You dare say chopping them will be just like chopping melon? Wait until the critical time and any of them slips through the net, kiddo. If we can catch all these top executives of Darkwind in one fell swoop this time, the remaining ones will definitely hide much deeper and it will be very difficult to find their traces, much less eliminating them again in the future." "No worries." Tang Xiu let out a faint smile and was about to continue speaking as a text message prompt sound was heard from his phone. He quickly opened the text message and immediately handed the phone to Duanmu Lin, saying, "This is the photo taken from the interior, Senior Duanmu. The one in the photo is called Wang Sheng, the General Director of Darkwind Branch in China. He holds the list of the Darkwind's intel operatives in entire China." Eyes contracted, Duanmu Lin replied in a deep voice, "We must apprehend this Wang Sheng and get that list from him no matter how big the price is."
"Yeah."
Tang Xiu nodded. "The Darkwind's intel network in China will indeed be paralyzed if we kill their top executives in that club. But the rest of their intel operatives will definitely choose to become sleeper cells. Then it will be very difficult for us to dig them out again in the future." "True that." Duanmu Lin replied with a solemn look, "We must get that list no matter what it takes. I don't give a damn about other countries, but we must purify the mainland from this Darkwind cancer thoroughly." While the man was speaking, the ringtone of Tang Xiu's mobile phone rang again. It was still a text message, but the content was short, "It's time. It's time." Tang Xiu patted the seat in front and said in a deep tone, "Head straight to the Golden Coast Club. Straightly neutralize any resistance you encounter. Vroom, vroom." The roaring engines of 10 black cars were like wild horses' neighs as they vroomed and moved fast toward the Golden Coast Club. As the club's majestic gate appeared in sight, 8 stalwart men who were on guard at the gate instantly scrambled into defensive positions, as though they were about to face formidable enemies. "We're from the Special Abilities Bureau. Make way or die." A chilling shout was heard from the black car at the front. The sound of sudden braking and car drifting were then heard as 4 ability users from the agency bolted out from the car. Right at the instant the 8 stalwart men's face drastically changed, Sparks of lightning suddenly struck and blades of wind swept over even before they were able to remove the safety lock of their guns, causing those 8 burly men to meet their deaths in just a few breaths. Break. An earthbender waved his arms and an earth dragon formed by a pile of mud struck into the gate and crashed down to the ground, to clear the path from the black cars to drive fast to the interior. Enemies. Furious roars from tens of security guards came from the distance, followed by a rain of bullets. The glass windows shattered and bullets drilled holes in the car's body. Yet, the cars kept speeding up to the front. Shadows then flickered, bolting out from the car and moving like the gods of death that summoned forth various supernatural abilities to carry out a frenzied slaughter toward the security guards. Inside the black car in the middle, Duanmu Lin's eyes kept flickering. He was using his special ability to block the bullets shot at their car. He turned to look at Tang Xiu and said, "It's about time you show your card, isn't it? There are no experts in the surroundings, but we got too many people to deal with in the interior and likely, we'll have many experts there. It's just impossible for our men to accomplish the expected outcome with none of them slipping out. Haste makes waste, Senior Duanmu." "Please be patient," replied Tang Xiu with a smile yet again. Duanmu Lin was eager to retort but hesitated. He just realized that he wasn't like a mature and steady old man whenever he was with Tang Xiu. It was this young man who looked wiser and more prudent than he was, the old geezer who was supposed to have experienced the vicissitudes of life and the world. At this moment, Tang Xiu instantly released his perception and covered the range of several hundreds of meters. He felt satisfied with his previous plan since there were at least hundreds of people who had been rendered incapable, and were weaklings sitting on the floor, some of whom were struggling to stand up but failed due to the effect of the drug. Not bad. A smile sported on his face. But as he shifted his eyes to Duanmu Lin and found the old man wanting to speak but hesitating, he patted the front seat and smilingly spoke, "Park at the front." "Well, you should remember what I told you before, Senior Duanmu. I promised you that you can easily chop or slay those people, didn't I? I guarantee you can do so with those enemies inside with ease." Screech. As the cars stopped, more than 30 people, members of the Special Abilities Bureau and Tang sect disciples, quickly neutralized the resistance in the surrounding and quickly gathered in front of Tang Xiu and Duanmu Lin. "Tang Xiu, this operation is yours to command," said Duanmu Lin solemnly. Tang Xiu didn't refuse and said, "I'll obey the order. Everyone, heed my order. Secure the interior and make those people lose their ability to act and have them under control, and kill those who resist without mercy." "Yes, sir." Figures charged inside one after another, leaving only Jin Shi and Chen Jizhong behind. Interesting. Collaborating with ability users from the Special Abilities Bureau, trying to eradicate my Dark Wind organization in China, or not, aren't you too arrogant and conceited? Just as the voice faded away, more than a dozen cultivators emitting out an enormous pressuring aura rushed out of the clubhouse lightning fast, and arrived in front of Tang Xiu and Duanmu Lin's group of 4. Tang Xiu stroked his chin and smilingly said, "If my guess is correct, you should be that Elder Wei, yes? Weren't you the one who cast that restriction seal on my useless nothing disciple?" Old Wei, their leader, sneered. "I heard that Boss Tang is young and promising, though it never occurred to me that you're also a powerful cultivator yourself. To think that you can break the seal on Chen Jizhong's body, no wonder you can be his master, huh? Yet, I never thought you're also a member of China's Special Abilities Bureau. Well, well. I think I still have tons of things you have yet to find out, Old Wei." Tang Xiu smiled and said, "I'm gonna show them to you later, though." A look of fear flashed in Duanmu Lin's eyes, and he snorted coldly. "It turns out to be you, Wei Xianyong. It's been 2 decades since I last saw you. I didn't expect that you've become the Darkwind's dog." "I gave you a lesson about your special abilities more than 2 decades ago, didn't I, Duanmu Lin?" sneered Wei Xianyong. "If anything, you were no threat then, and definitely pose no threat now. Call your rats back to where you come from if you know your limitations, else don't blame for being ruthless, for I'm gonna butcher you first before I raise your Special Abilities Bureau again." Duanmu Lin sneered and scowled again and again. He may have yielded and retreated if Tang Xiu wasn't here today, as he didn't want to be Wei Xianyang's enemy. But today's situation was different, since Tang Xiu was a powerful expert who was at least on par with a nascent soul stage powerhouse. No matter how powerful Wei Xianyang was, it was unlikely for Tang Xiu to even need to use his palm to slap him dead. "They are yours, Tang Xiu," said Duanmu Lin in a deep tone. "Rest assured, Senior Duanmu." Tang Xiu smilingly said, "This jumping clown isn't worth it entering my eyes, to begin with." Duanmu Lin shot a cold glance at Wei Xianyang and strode to the distance. What he wanted to apprehend the most was the general director of Darkwind branch in China, Wang Xing. Tang Xiu just let out a faint smile, hooking his fingers to Wei Xianyang and his men, saying, "You see, I also think you got a quite surprising power for being able to cast a restriction seal on my disciple, Elder Wei. But no matter how powerful the enemy is, I'm his master, so I can't just sit by and watch as my disciple is schemed against and ignore it, can I? Come, you got your lackeys to graze here, so let me taste how strong your teaching is." In response, Wei Xianyang shot Tang Xiu a contemptuous look, since he couldn't sense any aura of an expert from Tang Xiu whatsoever. It was Jin Shi who was next to Tang Xiu, whose aura somewhat gave him a chill. Instead, "Deal with those two puppies around Tang Xiu. I want to have a look at whether this brat actually has the capital to be so arrogant." Wei Xianyang waved, and several experts instantly charged forward toward Jin Shi and Chen Zhizhong. "Bring it on." Jin Shi hideously grinned, and two daggers instantly appeared in his hands, whereas a long spear suddenly appeared out of thin air in Chen Zhizhong's hand. With a shake of his arm, the image of the spear then emerged. Chapter 11:17, Slaying People Like Chopping Watermelon? With his perfect understanding of Jin Shi and Chen Zhizhong's strength, Tang Xiu didn't worry about them and just calmly looked at Wei Xianyang, waiting for the man to attack him. Whoosh! With speed as fast as a lightning bolt, Wei Xianyang instantly appeared in front of Tang Xiu. A golden glove unknowingly appeared on his right fist that was now about to hit Tang Xiu's head. On par with Golden Core stage, huh? A contemptuous look appeared on Tang Xiu's face. The Bloodguzzler dagger suddenly appeared in his hand and instantly stabbed Wei Xianyang's body before the latter's fist hit Tang Xiu's head. The violent primal chaos force followed the dagger and drilled into Wei Xianyang's system. What? With a drastically changed face, Wei Xianyang was horrified. He never dreamed that Tang Xiu's speed would be so fast, giving him no chance to react at all. Yet, it wasn't over. His expression was that of desperation in just less than half a second, since the violent primal chaos force in his body was overwhelming him, wreaking havoc and making his internals a mess after drilling into his system. Such heart-wrenching pain was something Wei Xianyang had never tasted for more than a decade. He suddenly retreated, but then found that Tang Xiu was like a maggot that followed his bones. His seemingly slow movements turned out to be fast to the extreme. The following blow on his chest brought an enormous impact force that straightly broke his breastbone, with two fractures stabbing his heart. Isn't he way too terrifying? A cultivator, at least at the nascent soul stage? Curse it. Desperation was getting evident on Wei Xianyang's face. Blood crazily spurted out from his mouth, but a fist carrying a huge force hit the back of his head again, rendering him dizzy as he was sent flying. He could only sense his body turn into a punching bag that kept being hit with at least 10,000 pounds each punch, causing his injury to get worse and more serious. Bam! After several seconds, Tang Xiu delivered a slap while keeping a faint smile all the while, looking as Wei Xianyang, who now looked like a dead dog, was sent flying upside down a dozen meters away before heavily slamming on the cold concrete. He didn't straightly kill the man, but only made him disabled by breaking his bones one by one, causing him to stumble like mud on the floor, unable to get up. Sir! Asshole! 5 men under Wei Xianyang frantically charged toward Tang Xiu, all of whom looked like they were ready to perish together in the attempt to kill Tang Xiu. A few fireflies dare to contend with the moon? Shooting them a contemptuous glare, Tang Xiu instantly unleashed the divine sword. Layers of sword image were as though roaring waves that directly drowned these men. As the sword images dissipated, Tang Xiu took back the divine sword into his body, leaving muddy paste of bloody meat sprinkled on the ground. Near to the scene, Jing turned into a deadly and ruthless incarnation of himself. He had killed 6 or 7 of Wen Xianyang's men in just half a minute, whereas Qin Zhizhong still had his power even though his memory was shrouded. Especially his powerful physical strength that almost reached the peak of dreadfully strong. Every time he brandished the spear, it was a sure hit that heavily injured the target. In just half a minute, he also had slain 4 or 5 men. Die. When the last of Wei Xianyang's men were hit by both of them and killed, the 2 men quickly gathered around Tang Xiu and vigilantly watched the surroundings. In other areas, Duanmu Lin strode fast into the club's interior. His eyes were almost popping out from its socket upon witnessing how the members of Dark Wind Organization kept trying to resist, but kept falling back weakly on the floor. That was outright unthinkable. He had fantasized about the countless possibilities, including an ambush by the people Tang Xiu had planted in the club. Yet, he never thought that these Dark Wind members would be paralyzed on the floor, likely having been poisoned and lost their ability to resist. What did he say again? Killing them will be as easy as chopping watermelons? Only at this moment did Duanmu Lin finally understand what Tang Xiu said previously. The current conditions of these Dark Wind members really seemed to provide such a chance to kill them as easy as chopping watermelons. Whoosh! A figure flickered fast from the distance and quickly arrived a few meters away from Duanmu Lin. An enemy? Eyes overflowing with a chilling light, Duanmu Lin immediately prepared to cast his special ability to kill the person after he had confirmed the man was neither of the Special Abilities Bureau, nor Tang Xiu's. No. Don't attack. Same side. Gui Tao had been avoiding the experts from the Special Abilities Bureau and the Tang sect, after witnessing them killing the Dark Wind members. He kept trying to search for Tang Xiu literally everywhere since he didn't want these experts to wrongly take him as a target and kill him. Duanmu Lin's expression slightly shifted. He shot a cold stare at the man and chillingly said, "You said you're on our side?" "Senior, I'm Gui Tang, the man boss Tang planted," Gui Tao quickly replied. "It was us who put the drug into the dishes for the Dark Wind members, thus causing them into such condition. You can find Boss Tang and ask him if you don't believe me." Eyes narrowed, Duanmu Lin actually believed Gui Tao upon hearing his explanation. But he chose to play safe and called Tang Xiu. Only after the latter's confirmation then did he nod with satisfaction, saying, "For being able to read the circumstances and act accordingly, you're not bad. All right, you can live longer by not working for the Dark Wind. I'm going to reward you and Wen Feng on behalf of the state's Special Abilities Bureau after this matter is over." Gui Tao felt a bit more at ease. "I never thought you were a member of the state's Special Abilities Bureau, Senior. I and Wen Feng were forced and threatened by the Dark Wind back in the past to work for them. But then again, as long as the state can catch this whole lot of people in one fell swoop, we'll be able to live safely and never do anything for them." Duanmu Lin nodded. "That's the correct decision. But tell me, where's Wang Xing?" "I got no idea." Gui Tao shook his head. He had already disappeared when the banquet was halfway through. "I've secretly sent my men to find him, but to no avail." Duanmu Lin's face slightly changed and he said in a heavy voice, "Find Wang Sheng's trace. We can't let him escape today no matter what." Gui Tao was perfectly aware of the reason why Duanmu Lin wanted to find Wang Sheng. The man held a list of the Dark Wind members in China. However, Wang Sheng's nickname in the Dark Wind organization was the most famous of all, a man of myriad faces. Even though he appeared in front of everyone today, who could guarantee he was using his real face? Even if he had seen that man before and the face was of the same appearance, it was likely he just used his privilege to see his subordinates for this honor and then might change his appearance to another. Within the space barrier, Tang An was vigilantly observing the surroundings. Her eyes were fixed on Wang Sheng, who was now being protected by 4 burly middle-aged men. As of now, she just came out of the tunnel outside the Golden Coast Club. Inform McAllen to take the list of the Dark Wind members in China and immediately leave this country at once. Also, activate the alarm device and notify each of our members. Tell them to lay low and wait for the resurgence. Wang Sheng immediately issued an order in a heavy voice just as he took a seat on the car that had yet to be started. However, there was no response from his adjutant, who just similarly took a seat on the front seat. The man hadn't even closed the door yet. Wang Sheng frowned and was about to speak again when he saw the other confidant who just entered the driver's seat suddenly shrink his eyes and look frightened. What the fuck is happening? A bad premonition suddenly surging in his heart, Wang Sheng immediately asked aloud. He's dead. The confidant in the driver's seat hadn't even finished his words when his neck was twisted. A gurgling voice came out of his throat and then he died. The fear in Wang Sheng's heart multiplied. The enemy was invisible, and it made him secretly desperate. He pushed the door lightning fast and drew a ruby-inlaid dagger from his waist. Who is it? Vigilantly scanning around fast, Wang Sheng shouted loudly. His other 2 men also quickly came down from another car and quickly protected him. Puff, puff. An immortal sword suddenly emerged out of thin air. Giving no chance to Wang Sheng's 2 men to react, it directly slit their throats and impaled their hearts before it disappeared again. Internal energy? Pupils shrunk. Wang Sheng's feet moved as fast as lightning and instantly appeared 3 meters away and powerfully slashed the ruby-inlaid dagger at the air fluctuation he had perceived. Slash. A muffled slashing sound was heard and that immortal sword appeared again out of the blue and swept toward Wang Sheng's waist. No matter how fast he was, the clothes on his waist were still cut and left a bleeding wound. Flame. Wang Sheng opened his left palm and a blob of fire suddenly emerged. He highly focused his mental power to sense the fluctuation of that internal energy and prepared to attack at any time. It was an invisible man. One he had never encountered. Even though he also had another identity as an ability user and had seen many types of abilities, this was his first time running into an expert so proficient in stealth. World of Sword Prison. An ethereal sound passed into Wang Sheng's ears from all directions, whereas a sword image appeared several meters midair. The sword image seemed to form an airtight cage that straightly covered Wang Sheng from head to toe, though its striking might was not that powerful. Charge. Wang Sheng didn't retreat and dashed to the top unyieldingly. The fireball in his hand was blasted out and the sea of flames suddenly appeared out of nowhere and covered a 12 meters radius. Tang An's figure donning a black knight suit and a bronze mask appeared out of thin air. There was no voice nor sound coming out of her mouth as she cast a seal to summon another type of flame in the midst of the sea of fire. Chapter 11:18, To Die Out of Loyalty. Of the entire Tang sect, Tang Xiu was the strongest after Gu Yan and Ji Qimei. Even Shuiyu, who had broken through to the spirit formation stage, was still inferior to him. But the strongest one behind them was Tang An. Not only was she an expert at the late stage of Golden Core, but she also mastered a secret art on spatial law and some of the law of time. In terms of magical spells, there was perhaps not many people as well versed at it in Tang sect, but Tang An was definitely one. Not only did she like to study various classics on arrays, but she was also very keen on studying magic spells and had an achievement on some of them. The flames that emerged in the sea of fire emitted a faint blue luster. Cultivators from the immortal world would definitely recognize that fire as the true flame in the legends. Wang Sheng was shaken, his eyes nearly jumping out. Tang An's power was already outrageous, yet he never expected her to be an ability user, a firebender. What the heck is this flame? He instantly retreated backward due to his keen sense warning him that this was absolutely not an ordinary flame. The flame he had unleashed was even actually forced to retreat when the blue flame appeared. Tang An's figure vanished once again, but her immortal sword was still hovering in the air, blocking off every possible route to escape for Wang Sheng. Scram! Wang Sheng furiously bellowed after evading a strike of the immortal sword when suddenly, he felt his body go stiff and a chilling sensation hit his neck. It turned out to be a dagger that suddenly appeared out of the blue and was placed on his neck. You come with me. Tang An's chilling voice passed to Wang Sheng's ear as her figure appeared at the man's side. The killings in the Golden Coast Club were progressing quickly. All the members of the Dark Wind organization who tried to resist were all killed ruthlessly, whereas tens of them who chose not to were stunned and discarded before the tens of experts from the Special Abilities Bureau brought them to the square to be apprehended. When Tang Xiu arrived at the square, he could clearly see the beaming smile on Duanmu Lin's face. Senior Duanmu, shouted Tang Xiu with a smile. The man happily nodded and said, I never thought the operation would go this well, Tang Xiu. You just literally made them collapse from the inside and then easily destroyed them. These two former members of the Dark Wind are not bad. They deserve to be rewarded. Tang Xiu calmly glanced at Guitao and Wenfeng and coolly said, It's as you say, Senior Duanmu. They did great merit this time, so I'm going to reward them later. Nodding slightly in response, Duanmu Lin glanced around and his beaming smile slowly disappeared. He even furrowed his brows and asked, Have you found any trace on Wang Sheng? Zhu Long shook his head. We got nothing. It's like he just vanished. But he should still be in the clubhouse since a few people saw him just 10 minutes ago. Keep searching for him. I don't care if you turn everything upside down, but you still must find him. Duanmu Lin ordered in a heavy voice. Tang Xiu's expression shifted and he shook his head. I don't think it's necessary to find him, though. What do you mean? Duanmu Lin was confused. Right after he asked, two figures suddenly appeared in front of him. Donned in black knight suit and a bronze mask was Tang An, whereas the one who looked distressed and seriously injured was Wang Sheng. This is... Duanmu Lin looked ecstatic after seeing Wang Sheng's face. He truly admired Tang Xiu wholeheartedly. This young man was not only powerful, he even had quite a subordinate with amazing skills under him. He previously thought that Wang Sheng had escaped, but it turned out that Tang Xiu's subordinate had seized him already. With eyes that seemed able to perceive people's minds, Tang Xiu swept over Duanmu Lin's face before he instantly appeared in front of Wang Sheng. He exerted a great deal of his energy to hit tens of vital points around the man's body and completely sealed them. Afterward, he paced 2 steps backward and spoke with a faint smile. You're the chief intel operative of the Dark Wind branch in China, yes? Wang Sheng just stared at Tang Xiu in response and stayed silent for several seconds. Then, he slowly said, You should be able to see the internal condition of my body. Most of my life force has gone, and I can only last for a few minutes more. I'm afraid you won't have more chances if you don't get the answer you want. Not really. Tang Xiu shook his head and smiled. It may work if you say that to others, but it's useless to me. You're the head of the Dark Wind branch in China, Wang Sheng. You should know my existence, and the most detailed information about me must have been sent to your desk once, right? Eyes full of surprise, Wang Sheng nodded. You're right. I did read a lot of information about you. Then, did you forget my identity and about Chinese medicine? Tang Xiu probed smilingly. Expression slightly changing, a bad feeling filled Wang Sheng's heart and he asked in a heavy voice, What do you mean? Why bother asking since you have guessed it already? Tang Xiu sneered. My subordinate may have gotten you severely injured, but she got a clear order from me, so she'd never kill you. If anything, your life force is leaking out fast because you're trying to commit suicide when she was not aware of it, to begin with. But I'm a Chinese medicine practitioner. As long as I don't permit you to die, you won't die even if you try your best to kill yourself. God damn it. Wang Sheng's expression twisted. He was indeed trying to commit suicide by using a special mean to destroy his vitality. Tang Xiu's remarks, however, gave him deep dread since he never feared death. Being alive was much more dreadful to him. Tang Xiu squinted and went on to deliver his mental attack to wreck Wang Sheng once again. Further, you should know some about my identities, but you don't know a lot more about me. I don't think you know about my other identity as a cultivator, no? Let me tell you frankly. That elder Wei from your organization has been slain by me. He was nothing but a weak golden core stage, yet he dared to be arrogant before me. He deserved death. That's impossible, roared Wang Sheng. Dread and horror were evident on his face. Impossible, huh? Tang Xiu sneered. Do you think ants like you guys can figure out my means if any? There's something else I can tell you. As a cultivator, I still have many more means unimaginable to you. Such as technique to scrutinize your soul, the soul scouring art. I can search your memory 5 minutes after you died and get the answer I want to know from your mind. Soul scouring art? Isn't that the extremely sinister technique mentioned in the legends? A secret art that only devils can master? Oh, God. If he's telling the truth, I'm afraid I can't keep any secret of the organization even if I completely die now. I know too much. Once my memory is checked by him, it will definitely cause great harm to the entire organization. Kill me now. Wang Sheng suddenly looked up and yelled at the night sky. Tang Xiu's expression changed as he noticed that Tang An also vanished instantly. He instantly unleashed the divine sword from his body. It then formed a sword image that covered the sky and streaked upward turbulently. At that moment, a ghostly figure clad in a black night coat with a golden mask and a shovel on his back suddenly appeared, in the midst of layers of swords images. Roar! The chilling and turbulent energy suddenly blew toward the people in the surroundings. Even those who were comparable to the Foundation establishment stage experts were forced back and felt suffocated, as they constantly retreated backward. The mysterious thin man with the golden mask looked as though a solitary boat in the roaring, violent sea. He flew frantically in the midst of sword tides as he shed his blood. A sharp flying knife then shot toward Tang Xiu's chest, causing the clothes on Tang Xiu's chest to explode. Yet, the flying knife only left a faint mark on it and was unable to pierce the skin. Interesting. Tang Xiu instantly streaked up and closely trailed the mysterious man. Had he not reacted fast enough a moment ago, that flying knife would have pierced Wang Sheng's head, instead of hitting his chest. That was an act to silence the witness. This kind of ruthlessness was the style of the Dark Wind organization in handling their affairs. Yet, the other party's forbearance evoked Tang Xiu's admiration regardless. The man was able to forbear until the end, and it was very likely that he had heard what he just said to Wang Sheng. Impossible. The mysterious man's voice was very hoarse as he exclaimed out in alarm. He was crystal clear about his own power, which was comparable to the Golden Core stage cultivators. He exerted all his strength to shoot that flying knife, yet it only left a shallow mark on Tang Xiu's body, not even able to pierce his skin. This was beyond his imagination. The divine sword in Tang Xiu's hand bolted lightning fast toward the mysterious man, gifting him a serious bleeding injury several centimeters long. Afterward, Tang Xiu sneered at him. I didn't lie when I said that I'm a cultivator, yet my main practice is not cultivating true essence energy but the demon god's physique refinement. You can say that I'm a body cultivator. You'll never inflict any injuries on me unless you've reached the late stage of Golden Core and used a divine armament to injure me. Puff. Just as his voice faded away and right as a look of fear was cast on the man's face, the divine sword swept away once again and directly slashed his body. Wang Sheng wore a pained look upon witnessing the scene in midair. He knew very well about some special arrangements in the Dark Wind organization. Every director assigned to a country was responsible for the entire intelligence operations, Yet someone would also be arranged as a finisher, or rather, a terminator. However, his father was one of the Darkwind's founders, a powerful man who held the power and rights to speak as one of the top 3 in the organization. Before he was sent to China, his father promised him that there would be no finisher arranged for him. The old man said that he trusted him and that he would never betray him. It turns out that father never has, or will trust anyone. Not even his own son. The heartbreaking pain engulfed him. His father was a man he respected and admired the most in this world, someone he would never betray. Prior to this, he had even made up his mind to commit suicide to take the secret of the Darkwind organization to his grave, all for his father. And yet, he found himself wrong. Chapter 11-19, Crossing Over. It was then Wang Xing found that his father never trusted him, more so that the finisher, who was assigned to him, was also one of the top experts in the finisher division of the organization. He even imagined that it'd have been unlikely that he'd get caught by the mysterious woman had this finisher appeared. Tang Xiu. With a rapid change in his state of mind, Wang Xing looked up at Tang Xiu, who floated down from the sky. Wearing a firm and decisive face, he said in a deep tone, "I'll tell you anything you want to know." Tang Xiu was surprised and scrutinized the man's face as he asked, "Is it because of the assassin who just wanted to kill you?" A chilling light flashed in Wang Xing's eyes and he nodded. "That's right. I'm one of the Darkwind's top executives and have contributed a lot to the organization all these years. Yet, the finisher didn't come to aid me when I was in a desperate situation but wanted to kill me instead. Such an organization doesn't deserve me keeping its secrets. And my old man, he can just abandon his own son, then?" Tang Xiu frowned and asked, "You said your father? Who's he?" "The name is Wang Xian, one of the 3 founders of the Darkwind, the most influential and powerful figure in the organization," answered Wang Xing. The revelation gave quite a shock to Tang Xiu as he quickly exchanged glances with the shocked Duan Mulin. Then, he immediately asked in a deep voice, "You just said your father is the founder of the Darkwind organization, meaning as his son, you must know a lot of secrets of this organization, am I right?" "That's correct." Wang Xing nodded and said, "I do know a lot of things about them." Tang Xiu fell into silence for a moment before taking out a holy healing pill from the interspatial ring, and stuffing it to Wang Xing's mouth quickly. "This pill is enough to ensure your life. We won't kill you, but you must cooperate with us. As far as I'm concerned, the Darkwind poses an enormous threat either to me or to China as a state, so that's why we need to figure out this organization and find methods to guard against it." Wang Xing wryly smiled and said, "To live or die doesn't mean anything to me anymore. It's not like I can still live a normal life anymore. Your subordinate is very ruthless indeed. Treating your enemies with softness and kindness is nothing but acting cruelly to yourself," replied Tang Xiu lightly. "I may not be able to fully restore your strength if you cooperate with me, but I can guarantee that I can heal your injuries. You can still live like a normal person and spend the rest of your life safely." Wang Xing looked at Tang Xiu for a long while and then said slowly, "I don't have a problem with fully cooperating with you. But there's one thing I want to ask you. I'll tell you everything I know about the Darkwind if you answer it seriously." "Go ahead." Tang Xiu nodded. "You said you've grasped the soul scouring art, but why didn't you cast it on me directly to scour my soul and read my memories?" then asked Wang Xing. "You can make sure that I don't hide anything or lie to you when I tell you everything later." The question made Tang Xiu think for a moment. But then, he shook his head. "There's a drawback in using the soul scouring art. I may be able to see your memory, but I myself will also be affected. After all, I'm using my spiritual sense to observe your past life and your character. Furthermore, I don't have much time, and my present strength is still too weak. It'd have been unrealistic if I were to check all of your memories in a short time. It would likely that I'd waste a lot more time than it should if I were to read your every memory for a long time. You still don't tell me the whole thing. Wang Sheng shook his head. You're very smart. It's an understatement indeed to not call you wise. Tang Xiu applauded. If anything, your memory will turn chaotic once I use the soul scouring art. And you may turn into an idiot even if you survive. Further, the memories obtained by the soul scouring art are hardly a complete one, and some contents would be very disorderly due to the memory collapse caused by the gap in time from the time of death and thus, will lead to the loss of a lot of important information. Wang Sheng quickly grasped the explanation and forced a smile. I'd rather die than to live like an idiot. Anyhow, I'm done with the question. Just ask your questions directly. No hurries. Tang Xiu waved and said, things are still not over here. Besides, we got tons of time to talk, to begin with. Having said that, he shifted to Duanmu Lin and said, Senior Duanmu, everything that happened tonight is very confidential and mustn't get exposed. You should immediately seal off any channel of news and make sure everything that happened here won't be known to outsiders, for at least a few days. I understand. Duanmu Lin nodded. But I still need the list of all the Darkwind members in China. The list is stored at the HQ in Fukang Province, replied Wang Sheng. Then let's head to the Fukang Province now, responded Duanmu Lin. I don't want to go back there anymore. Wang Sheng shook his head. But I'll call someone to deliver me that list. You can rest your worry about that person. He's absolutely very loyal to me, so there won't be any accidents. Tang Xiu, Duanmu Lin turned to Tang Xiu, hesitating. Tang Xiu scrutinized Wang Sheng's expression carefully before nodding. I think we can believe him, Senior Duanmu. I know what it feels like to be betrayed by those close to you. Such betrayal hurts so much. Duanmu Lin also felt that Tang Xiu was right. Therefore, he took his mobile phone and handed it to Wang Sheng. He then stood at the ready next to the man, just in case the man spoke something wrong so he could immediately end the call. No can do. Wang Sheng shook his head. Nearly all my bones have been broken by Tang Xiu's underling. I was still able to resist previously due to the support of my internal energy, but barely. And my chi has now dispersed due to the serious injuries. Let alone holding a phone, I don't think I can even lift a piece of paper. Tang Xiu took the phone and said, all right, just tell me the number and I'll help you dial it. Wang Sheng told Tang Xiu the cell number of his trusted adjutant. The number was dialed and the call was quickly picked up, followed by a low and deep voice. Who is this? It's me. Lu, said Wang Sheng. Go immediately to the vault in the HQ. There's a box with a combination lock in the innermost corner which stores the list of all the Darkwind members in China. Take it and head straight to Liangong City by yourself. I need it badly now. Understood, the other party respectfully replied. Wang Sheng nodded to Tang Xiu. After seeing him hang up the phone, he said, I don't think you guys need to guard against me. I never would have made that call just now if I had any intention to deceive you. You're right. Tang Xiu nodded. You could have said something else when you called. Anyway, let's head inside and find the meeting room to have some good chats about the Darkwind Agency. I expect you to tell us everything truthfully. I have crossed over. I'm a traitor of the Darkwind organization, and they always treat traitors like hell, extremely brutal, said Wang Sheng bitterly. I won't feel anything but happy if you can really exterminate the entire Darkwind organization. The Darkwind is a very frightening force with terrifying strength. It's absolutely impossible to destroy it completely given the number of their intel operatives, which are literally in every corner of the world. Your hope is too tall an order. However, I can assure you that China's Special Abilities Bureau will put you in the protection program for a very long time. At least, your safety can be guaranteed in the next few years. Wang Sheng just nodded wordlessly in response. After a while, Tang Xiu and Duanmu Lin took Wang Sheng to a small meeting room, followed by Qin Shizhong and Zhu Long. A long time passed by and everyone stayed in that room. As Tang Xiu and Duanmu Lin left the meeting room together, their expressions looked a bit ugly, especially the former. Tang Xiu heard a lot of things from Wang Sheng, one of which was something he never expected. One of the 3 leaders of the Dark Wind organization turned out to be the patriarch of House Dolan, Angelo Dolan's grandfather. As such, Tang Xiu came to the realization that he must also uproot the Dark Wind organization if he wanted to eradicate House Dolan. If these 2 entities were to join hands, and even if the Tang sect could get rid of these serious troubles, it was close to impossible to not suffer a great loss. We don't have much time. Tang Xiu looked at the direction of the Golden Coast Club's gate and murmured. Duanmu Lin squinted and nodded. You're right. It's about time we leave. Tang Xiu, what do you think about Wang Sheng's confession? How much of it is reliable and how much is false? I still have the ability to judge and determine truth from falsehood, said Tang Xiu. But at least 80% of his information is true. Looking at it from the other side, it's also very likely that everything is true as he wants to use our hands to give the Dark Wind a lesson. Duanmu Lin didn't give his opinion and just walked side by side with Tang Xiu to the outside, when Jin Shi came at them half running from the distance. Someone just came and wants to see Wang Sheng, sect master, reported Jin Shi respectfully. He said he's from the Fukong province. Tang Xiu hadn't yet replied as Duanmu Lin rapidly asked, where's this man? He's near the pond in front, answered Jin Shi. Quickly, the few people saw a stalwart man with a vigilant look. It was Tang Xiu who greeted him lightly. Did you bring it? Who are you? The strong man coldly asked back, where's my boss? Your boss is Wang Sheng, right? He's injured and is now recovering, replied Tang Xiu. Just give me the list you brought and then I'll send someone to deliver you to Wang Sheng. The big man's face turned colder as he replied, I absolutely can't give you this list with all the Darkwind's members in China written on it. I must see my boss. Else, I'll activate the self-destruct mechanism of this combination-locked suitcase and destroy all the information in it. Oi, Jin Shi, go fetch Wang Sheng. Tang Xiu coldly snorted and ordered. Affirmative. Jin Shi curtly replied and quickly ran towards the conference room. Chapter 1120, Searched by Someone Through the Internet. As the first sunshine rose from the east in the early morning, Tang Xiu returned to Shanghai alone with a weary feeling, whereas Jin Shi, Tang Yin, and the experts from the Tang sect quietly left to Liangyang City to carry out the plan to build the intelligence network. At Blue Star Villa Complex. Just as Tang Xiu arrived, he received a call from Mu Weining. Shortly after, the lady herself caught up and gave him a message that caught him off guard. Anyhow, she just left, but she didn't say anything where she's heading. She passed this to me for you. Mu Weining opened her bag and took out a beautifully wrapped gift box from it. Wearing a complicated look, Tang Xiu just looked at the gift box handed over to him. He fell into silence for a moment before receiving it wordlessly and stuffing it into the interspatial ring. Everything has been buried in the past, and there's no need to get entangled and be bothered too much, I think. Since she chose to leave and disappear into her own world, perhaps this is the best ending possible. It was Mu Weining instead who looked surprised. Aren't you going to open it and have a look? Is it necessary, though? Asked Tang Xiu back calmly. Mu Weining was silent. She kept having this feeling that an unclear relationship existed between Tang Xiu and Han Qinggu. She even had the thought the woman was someone who once hurt Tang Xiu deeply. But she could only suppress her intense curiosity since Tang Xiu never wanted to mention anything about Han Qinggu. She then changed the subject. Anyhow, have you noticed something? There's a kind of news on the internet that a patient from the capital of Beihai province has been shuttling back and forth to Star City and Shanghai. The person is hoping to find you to cure a disease and save someone. She hasn't been able to find you yet, hence why she has been looking for you through the internet. Tang Xiu slightly furrowed his brows, then shook his head. It's not easy to find me ever since I stopped giving medical examination, though. Besides, I'm not purely a Chinese medicine practitioner, to begin with, so it's up to fate to encounter patients, more so treating them and saving their lives. If anything, I won't just sit by and watch if I happen to encounter them directly, but I won't leave for the Beha province just because the person has been looking for me through the internet. I get that. Mu Weining nodded. Besides, there are too many patients needing treatment nowadays. You're gonna die of exhaustion if each one of them finds you through the internet and you force yourself to visit them. But I've been curious about something, though. The person said that there's a very valuable gift for you if you can cure her mother's illness. What I really want to know is what kind of gift it is. A gift? The world is full of precious and valuable gifts. It's good if you can get them, but you can't force it if you don't. Tang Xiu shook his head. If anything, what should be mine will naturally appear in my hands, but there's no need to force myself if it isn't meant to be. Well, forget it since you're not interested in this matter, then. Mu Weining chuckled and said, anyway, let's change the subject. What do you want to do next, though? Are you going back to Nine Dragons Island? What I'm going to do next? Confusion struck him all of a sudden. Tang Xiu had been feeling like there was always something pushing him forward, and he had to tend to all sorts of things. But now, he didn't know what to do next. Return to Nine Dragons Island? Now that he had settled everything there, it didn't matter whether he stayed there or not. Kong Xia was managing the magnificent Tang Corporation and he didn't need to be concerned about it, whereas some others were dealing with the minor things. All of a sudden, he found himself having nothing urgent to tend to. Upon seeing Tang Xiu's expression, Mu Weining realized that Tang Xiu should be very leisurely for some time, so she smilingly said, well, might as well stay in Shanghai if you have nothing important to deal with, I think. Besides, we've been apart for a long time, so just stay with me. Tang Xiu gave it a thought for a moment and smilingly nodded. All right. I'm gonna stay in Shanghai for now, before busying myself on other issues. That's right. How is it going with your advertising agency? Business has been great as always. We got clients and orders because of you. Mu Weining chuckled and said, you know, these big bosses have been introducing me to some other businesses ever since then. It's likely that many people have heard of our relationship, and even some big companies from other provinces come visiting my company to seek cooperation. So, you've been very busy then, asked Tang Xiu. Not really. Mu Weining shook her head. Although it keeps me occupied, I found myself a golden manager. His reputation may be inferior to Kong Xia's, but he's, nevertheless, a famous figure in the advertising industry, so he's been dealing with the general affairs of the company. I don't have much to do unless an important issue arises. Is he reliable, though? Tang Xiu was surprised. I dragged him out of the world's Wall Street financial center myself. We are of the same alumni, whereas his wife and I can be called good sisters, and I know he's a trustworthy person. Also, I've been paying attention to the financial aspect of the company and there are no problems so far, explained Mu Weining smilingly. Well, then it's best putting your time to cultivation since you're not that occupied, said Tang Xiu smilingly. Anyhow, I suddenly recalled something. I'm going to Beijing for some time later. You can come with me if you want. What for, exactly? Asked Mu Weining curiously. I'm a cultivator. I want to make my family members stronger since I can do it, answered Tang Xiu smilingly. You want to teach cultivation arts to your Tang clansmen, by chance? Mu Weining was surprised. Yup. Tang Xiu nodded. I can shelter the Tang family for a decade or two, but I can't shelter them forever, can I? You must, nevertheless, have a generation of outstanding talents if you want to make your clan stand up. Also, you should also make your own family get stronger, too. I'll give you a set of cultivation arts if you want, you can then decide whom you'll teach it to. Mu Weining pondered for a moment before shaking her head. It won't work for the time being, though. And why is that? Asked Tang Xiu curiously. That cultivation art is yours, and it must be practiced by your Tang clansmen to a certain degree first, explained Mu Weining. Only then can I teach to the Muse, though to only a handful few of them. You don't know much about House Mu, Tang Xiu. Although Grandpa has made the entire family shaken, the good days are long gone after a long time past, and some people's minds are no longer pure. I won't say about the rest, as you can see that even my dad. Tang Xiu was relieved and looked at her with a sympathetic gaze. Only now did he suddenly realize that it wasn't a bad thing that House Tang had been careful in the storms of social circles in Shanghai and Beijing. Without the oppression of House Yao and being a target from other families, the Tangs never would have united as one. They could have been ended up like House Mu with so many silk pants scions, which would make House Tang fall sooner or later. You're a smart person, Weining. You know what you can do and what you cannot, so you can treat it as you see fit. Mu Weining smilingly nodded, then suddenly said, anyway, since you're gonna stay in Shanghai for some days, might as well contact the patient who's been looking for you. I think you can spare your time to treat the patient if they're willing to come to Shanghai. I'm sure you can govern their illness given your medical skills. Tang Xiu gave it a thought and felt that her reasoning was sound, so he smiled and said, all right, find out the contact info of the other party. I'll call the person and set the time myself. Alrighty. She quickly activated her phone and found the said post on the internet, and then told Tang Xiu the cell number left by the person, which was directly called by Tang Xiu. Hello, I'm Li Kai. May I know whom I'm speaking to? A crisp voice was heard from the phone. I'm Tang Xiu. Is it you who have been looking for me on the internet? Replied Tang Xiu. The person on the phone was silent for a few seconds, and then said, are you really Divine Dr. Tang? Can you prove your identity? Please forgive me. It's because I've been receiving many calls recently. Some people are sympathetic and made a call to ask about my mother's conditions, but some were just trolling about, impersonating you and making my mother's life and mine worse. How about we do a video call, then, said Tang Xiu after pondering for a moment. That's great, the person immediately gave a happy response. Quickly after, Tang Xiu saw the other party's face. She was a 16-year-old beautiful girl with very fair skin. Her eyes were especially very pure and very pretty. It's really you, Mr. Tang? This is great, so great. My mother is as good as saved already. Li Kai, who lived in the Beihai province's capital, immediately looked happily surprised upon seeing Tang Xiu's face through the video call. Well, can you tell me about your mother's condition first? Asked Tang Xiu. Also, I'm afraid you need to come to Shanghai if your mother really needs my treatment. That's not a problem. We'll head there. Li Kai's response was ecstatic. Then, she reported the condition of her mother, and finally asked with a look of expectation, Divine Dr. Tang, can you determine what kind of disease my mother is afflicted with? Tang Xiu was silent for a moment, then shook his head before nodding to her. I've never seen the patient, so I have no way to determine the disease contracted by your mother. However, I do have some guesses in mind. But if my guess is correct, then, she can still be treated. If I get your meaning. Then, I'll take Mom to Shanghai immediately, Divine Dr. Tang. Is this your cell number? Where should we be looking for you once we arrive in Shanghai? Asked Li Kai excitedly. It's indeed my cell number, answered Tang Xiu. Also, phone me when you arrive in Shanghai. I'll send someone to the airport to fetch you. That's great. Thank you, Divine Dr. Tang. You're a good man, said Li Kai with a grateful face. Treating the illness and saving a patient is what I should do. Well then, we'll chat again the next time we meet, said Tang Xiu smilingly. Having said that, he directly hung up and then turned to look at Mu Weining next to him. He saw her face, who was about to speak something but hesitated. Then, he immediately asked, "What's up? Is there something wrong?" "Well, I'm just very curious." Mu Waniing chuckled. "If you cure that person's illness, I'm sure they will thank you very deeply. I thought you'd ask about it on the phone just now. After all, she's been looking for you on the internet and has repeatedly mentioned that the thank you gift would be great."